The Mercedes 190e Evolution 2 is a car that was born out of a fierce rivalry between Mercedes-Benz and BMW in the DTM touring car series in the late 80s and early 90s. To compete with the M3 Sport Evo, Mercedes had to create a homologation special that was faster, lighter, and more aerodynamic than the regular 190e, and boy did they succeed. The Evo 2, as it's known, is a rare beast. Only 502 were made, and they all came in a sinister dark blue color, except for the last two, which were black. The car looks like it came straight from the racetrack with a massive rear wing, a rear window spoiler, flared wheel arches, and a deep front bumper. The body kit is not just for show. It reduces the drag coefficient to a remarkable 0.29 and increases downforce at high speeds. The car also sits lower than the standard 190e thanks to a hydraulic self-leveling suspension that can be adjusted by a switch in the cockpit. Keep this in mind when you're modifying the suspension in-game, as it's real easy to lower the car too much, causing binding in the suspension. But the real magic of this car happens under the hood. The Evo 2 has a 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine that was tuned by Cosworth and AMG. It produces 232 horsepower, which may not sound like much today, but back in 1990, it was a lot for a naturally aspirated four-cylinder. The engine revs to a dizzying 7,600 RPM and sounds like a swarm of angry bees. The power is sent to the rear wheels via a 5-speed manual transmission and a limited slip differential. The car can sprint from 0 to 60 in 7.1 seconds and reach a top speed of 155 miles per hour. The Evo 2 is a joy to drive on twisty roads. The steering is sharp and precise, the brakes are strong and responsive, and the chassis is stiff and agile. The car feels light and nimble and can change direction with ease. The grip on this car is phenomenal thanks to the wide tires and the aerodynamics, but just be wary of the throttle pedal as it'll drift on you fairly easily as well. It's also worth noting that the car is still a luxury car and surprisingly comfortable and refined on the interior, with leather seats, electric windows, and air conditioning. It is a car that can do it all: race, cruise, and impress. The Evo 2 is truly a legendary car that you need to know about because it's one of the most iconic and desirable Mercedes-Benz models ever made. It is a car that combines performance, style, and rarity in a way that few others can. It's a car that's worth every penny of its high price tag, which can reach up to $300,000 today. But let's go ahead and take it to Tokyo and see how it lines up on our leaderboard. When Gran Turismo revealed the vehicles that were going to be released in the 1.4 update, the LFA caught my immediate attention, but it was the 190e that got me the most excited. The 190e Evo 2 is a German sedan with the styling that would be at home on a Japanese tuner car, and it feels like a muscle car when you get behind the wheel. The car is nimble in corners, but you need to practice restraint with the throttle, because if you get overzealous, the rear end of the car will step out with minimal effort. But this is part of what makes the car so fun to drive. Fully built, the Cosworth engine produces 599 horsepower and 360 foot-pounds of torque. And although it looks like a heavy luxury car, the weight can be stripped down to 2,300 pounds. It ends up at 747 performance points, so you'll most likely alter these numbers a little bit in order to qualify for the 700 series races. It's pretty average overall on fuel usage, as it ends up using its fuel supply up after around 5 laps, and this is pretty typical of the class. It also treats the tires pretty well with our current build of the game, with about 5% of the wear going to the front tires and about 15% of the wear going to the rear. This will of course be amplified if you're tempted to drift the car through the corners, so just be mindful of that. There's also a decent amount of customization available for the car, with different spoilers and different grills available to black the car out like we have here. And although it starts off with a wide body kit, it actually goes even wider once you modify it in the game. This is a car I would expect to see a engine transplant coming in the future, so just be on the lookout for that. I ended up picking up 2 of them just in case. We ended up crossing the line at 2 minutes 1 second .615. That puts it just behind the Civic Type R and just in front of the 2015 Lancer Evolution. That is a very respectable position for a 30-year-old car, and I do recommend picking this up just because it is fun to drive. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to support the channel and not miss any future content.